Mangird T2, or now known as Xenns Mangird T2, is one of the cult favorite IM. It might not be the most popular thing out there, but in some pockets of the community, this alongside the original Mangird T is somewhat revered as the best IM you can grab around $300, and some even goes as far to say that it is near endgame level. But what do I think about it? That's what we're here for. Let's jump into it. Hey friends, Timmy here. Welcome back to another video on Xenns Audio, and today we have the Mangird T2. And of course, besides reviewing this, we'll also be comparing this to the Blessing 2 Dusk and also the original Mangird T itself. Now, let's first start off with the sound signature of the Xenns T2. For me, this one has probably one of the safest sound signature out there. It has a nice little bass lift. The bass actually feels not so bassy, not bass head level, but just enough to be fun and engaging. The sub bass leading into a rather smooth mid bass presentation is quite well done and also well controlled. The mid bass thumps and slam can use a little bit more fun, a little bit more power, if you will, but all in all, it's just nice. It's safe, it's easy to listen to, it's going to be enjoyable for majority of people. So nicely done here in the low end. Now, leading into the lower mid range, this has a touch of warmth, just a touch of warmth to add a little bit of heftiness towards the low end here. Nothing that is too colored in any way. Again, this is a relatively well-tuned, safe DNA, is rather neutral across the board. It just has a touch of warmth to add just that little bit of extra weight. The rest of the mid-range is very clean, leading up to a rather modest, tamed upper mid-range. Now, this does have energy. Vocals do feel somewhat forward, but it's definitely tamer than what we're used to with Moondrop IEMs, with Tansium's IEM, for example. Now, if you're sensitive to upper mid-range, if you experience a lot of shoutiness from Moondrops and Tansium type IEMs, then this kind of tuning is gonna be perfect for you because the vocals is not too far behind. It still has its own place in the stage. It still pops out of the song, but it's just not super lively. It's not gonna be shouty in any way. Tame, relaxing style of signature without being too relaxing. I'm talking about the Tin P1 Max, for example. That one is too relaxing. The Mangird T2 has more energy than that. It actually sits at quite a nice sweet spot, being not too much, not too lively, or not being too little at the same time. This style of mid-range is, again, very, very safe, easy for anyone to listen to. Now, if you're looking for a little bit more liveliness out of your vocals, then this might feel a little bit too relaxed, a little bit too, again, safe, but that's all preference. Of course, in terms of the overall tuning and the balance of things, it is well done. Now on to the treble area. This is where I find it to be too safe. Yes, it is a safe IEM. Again, not offensive. No one's gonna hate this, but there is such thing as just being too safe. You know, you wear one too many knee pads, you have two helmets on. That's what I feel when I listen to the treble of the Mangird T. It's not sparkly, it's not forward, it doesn't really highlight any micro nuances in the song. It's there, you feel it, it's safe, but it's so in the background that it just leaves you wanting more. It's not dark, just not enough power there. I wish it has more sparkle, I wish it was just a little bit livelier, but all in all, can I knock too many points off for that? I can't knock too many points off for that because some people will really enjoy this, especially those who are really sensitive to treble. This might just be perfect. Other than that, there's not too much flaws I can pick out of the treble area. There might be some unevenness here and there, but it's not enough to really bug me in any way. The only thing that bugs me again is that it's just not enough. Now, onto the technical performance, the level of details. Let's bring up my scale here. This thing for me lands right around just above the star field. This is probably the most unfortunate thing about the Mangird T2. If it had more resolution, it would easily compete better in the $300-400 price level, considering how nicely balanced it's tuned. It's just that the detail lets it down. The biggest thing that hinders the detail performance of this IM is going to be the imaging and instrumental separation. It doesn't really feel like each instrument have a nicely clean-cut imaging to them. It's not well separated. Some of the sound just feels like they're really close to each other. Now, the stage is not very narrow. The stage actually all right. It has good frontal staging, a little bit on the side here, so it is wide to an extent, but the imaging itself lets it down. The instruments just don't feel as well separated, so you get this kind of smearing effect. Now, it's not super bad. Of course, it's still better than your average $100-200 IEMs out there, but when you're talking $350, you're not really competing with this kind of resolution. The tuning is really well done, and for some preferences, this just might be your favorite tuning ever. I can totally see why there's a cult following for the Mangird T2 and somewhat for the original as well. Unfortunately, the technical performance lets it down just a touch too much for me personally. Now for the comparison with the original Mangird T, I'm gonna make this very fast and simple for you guys. The original Mangird T is tamer across the board. Less bass, less upper mids, and even less treble. So it sounds just boring. The Mangird T2 is a much better IM. Better details, better contrast, better bass, better energy in the upper mids, and better treble. It's just better across the board. The original is so far behind the second version that just don't even talk about the original in any conversation ever. Go for the T2 if you're looking for this style of tuning. And last but not least, the comparison to the Blessing 2 Dusk. The bass leading down to the lower mid-range is generally tuned the same. I would say the bass on the Blessing 2 hits with more distinction, more authority, it's more dynamic if you will, but the bass on the Mangird T2 is more meaty, has more weight to it, feels more full as well than on the Blessing 2 Dusk. But if you want speed, if you want tight bass, the Blessing 2 Dusk would win. If you want a more musical bass, the Mangird T2 would be the preferred choice. Now, the lower mid range is generally the same. The difference comes in the upper mids and the treble area. The Blessing 2 Dusk has more energy than the Mangird T2, so vocals, especially female vocals, are going to come across livelier on the Blessing 2 Dusk, and also electric guitars, of course, going to be livelier as well. In the treble area, the Dusk is also quite uneven, similar to the Mangird T2, but it has more treble, it has better extension, so it is sparklier, it is livelier. For me, the tuning on the Blessing 2 Dusk is more balanced and more to my preference than the Mangird T2. But again, like I said, if you're sensitive to shoutiness, if you're sensitive to treble, then the Mangird T2 might be your preferred tuning over the Blessing 2 Dusk. Now, the biggest difference between the two, I would say, is in the details. The Dusk wins. Imaging is near pinpoint on the Dusk. There's instrumental layering, there's good separation. Soundstage wise, width and height I would say are similar. Depth though is where Blessing 2 Dusk wins. Again, the instrumental layering is better on the Dusk, hits deeper, feels slightly bit more airier as well. So what's my final verdict on the Mangird T2? If you're looking for the best IM for the money around this price, I would say the Dusk still wins because the level of details is just there. It's competitive for this price and higher, and also the tuning is really well balanced, so my money is on the Dusk. But having said that, this doesn't really have a lot of competition, or I should say it doesn't really have a competition for a style of tuning. Either a little bit of a tamer upper mids and treble, very relaxing. For this price and for prices lower than that, I don't really see a competition for this. So this does have a place in the market. If you're sensitive to those regions like I talk about, this is gonna be one of your favorite sounding IEM. Just keep in mind you are trading off some level of details when you're buying this, but what you're gonna get is something that's musical, that's easy to listen to, relaxing, and can play generally any genre quite okay. That's it for the review of the Mangird T2. Thank you so much for watching. If you tried both of these IEMs, leave your thoughts down below. I'd love to know what you think. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye.
君が笑うだけで何でもできる気がする一緒に